All right, if you are just tuning in, we did the pledge and we approved the minutes of the previous meeting, and now we are on to outside the rail. So outside the rail, do we have anyone present to address the board for anything not on the agenda? I am hearing and seeing nothing. Moving on to communications from the mayor. Welcome back, Mayor Allaire.
So thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Just have a couple of quick things I wanted to go through. I'm going to begin by telling you how happy I am to be with you tonight. It's been an interesting last 3 or 4 weeks, but I appreciate your support. I want to thank President Whitcomb and Alderwoman Davis for their leadership in my absence. I hope to be back in the building at City Hall full-time by Labor Day, and that's at the request or guidance, I guess I should say, of my doctors. So I'm going to be working from home remotely between now and then. I got a good start on things today. I had been keeping in touch with the department heads and a couple of the aldermen right along, so I have a pretty good idea of what I've missed and pick up right where we left off. Just to remind people, we do have a full agenda to work on. We being me and all of us, and I'm just going to list off a couple of things that haven't necessarily gotten on the radar screen recently, but that are going to be I'm going to be addressing when I get back in the saddle full time, and that is addressing the fire chief position in the permanent fire chief position. Also, our police chief, Chief Kilcullen's contract is up this November. There has been discussions with him through the police commission and in my office, and we want to address and get that taken care of in the next month and a half. So that'll be coming on the agenda also. Negotiations for the fire contract have been going on before I went out, and during the time, I think there was 2 meetings while I was out, and seem to be making a little bit of headway, hoping that we can get to some sort of an agreement in the next few weeks. Matt's out this week, but we're going to pick that up when he gets back. There are a couple of big sticking points, but like everything else, usually comes right down to the end. So we'll see if we can get that put together too before we get into the budget season, which is coming fast and furious. And I do have one good piece of excellent news to report to everyone. I got a phone call on Friday from Congressman Welch's, actually not even from his office, actually from him himself. We had a nice conversation on Friday afternoon, and in addition to him checking in on to see what my condition was in, he notified me that the city has been awarded the $350,000 grant from the Northern Borders group. As you recall, we applied for that back in the early summer, and that was with the intent to help to buy down the amount that we'll need to borrow for the CSJ gym bond. So, of course, that request will be on the ballot in November. So that is a really terrific piece of news. I think that'll be helpful as we talk to our constituents about the pros and cons of the bond vote coming up in November. Of course, I feel strongly about that we need to go forward with that. And I think all of the activity that's been happening down there at CSJ recently just amplifies the fact that property is, and that piece of that property should really be in our future. So I think that's terrific news. And maybe with a couple of the conversations you're going to have later on tonight, toward the end of the meeting, we might be able to put some more good news toward that, or for whatever the board decides. So I'll just finish up by saying, again, I want to thank the Board of Aldermen. I want to thank my department heads, all city employees, and really everyone in the city for all your support, all your encouragement. I've been getting tremendous amount of cards, phone calls, just words of encouragement from people who have either gone through this, something similar, or are just sending their support to me and to my family. And it's made a huge amount of difference in my recovery. So I just want to thank all of them for that. So I think I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Laird. Again, great to have you back and great to hear you sounding so well. Are there any questions for the mayor? I am seeing none, so we will move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. We have HR committee report that was emailed out at 5:30. Could we get a motion to add that under reports of select committees?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor of adding the HR committee report to the agenda, please indicate by saying
Aye.
Aye.
those opposed. Motion carries. Do we have any other additions to the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. Up first, we have Barb Spaulding. Request to set a public hearing. This is pages 1 through 3 of your packet. Barb, are you on with us?
I am on the phone with you.
Perfect. I guess feel free to give us a...
I'm hoping that Elizabeth Coulis from the Housing Trust is also on the line, who will better be able to explain why the city is reapplying to VCDP for funding for the Lincoln Place project, which is the purchase and renovation of the IHM building. And if she is on the line, I would happy turn it over to her.
Elizabeth, are you with us? Barb, I'm not sure that she's on with us.
Okay. If I'm happy to sort of explain that the VCDP had turned down our original application because they felt that we had enough funding to go forward with the project without their assistance. And what happened was another funder lessened the amount that they were willing to put toward the project. And so now there is gap funding. There's a gap in the budget. So we have asked VCDP if it makes sense to go back to them again and ask for that gap funding, and they told us yes. So that application is due in September for their November 5th board meeting, and we would hope to hear soon after that whether the funding is made available. I do know that Elizabeth and her team are working diligently to proceed with the project with the funding that they have in place. I know that a contract has been awarded through their bid process, so they are ready to begin. They're just trying to line up all their funding before they, proceed. So VCDP requires that we hold another public hearing because the last one was held more than 6 months ago. And that is what we're here to ask tonight, that you set that public hearing, a time on before your September 8th meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Barb.
Rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend that's been seconded. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll move to set the public hearing in regards to funding to renovate the IHM school on Lincoln Avenue to provide permanent supportive house for the homeless for September 8th at 6:45 p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and it has been seconded to set the public meeting for 6:45 p.m. on September 8th. Is there any discussion or debate? I am
Just add-
hearing.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman.
so Barbara, if we are unsuccessful again, what will be the project end?
I was hoping, that's why I kind of was hoping that Elizabeth would be here to answer those types of questions. I know she
Barbara,
will be at, oh, thank you. She is
I am here.
Okay.
So my cell signal's cutting out. Can you ask the question again?
My question, Elizabeth, it's Sharon, and my question
Sharon.
was, if we are unsuccessful again in obtaining the grant, what would be the status of the project?
We'd keep going. We'd keep looking for that last pot of money. You know, we've had other funders come forward and say, what about this or what about that? This is absolutely the best match for this project. It is a community development project, and I think that from my conversation with the commissioner, they really support the project, but because it appeared that we had sufficient funding, they put their community development resources to other projects. And when I spoke with Josh Hanford just a couple weeks ago, he said, if you find yourself in the situation you need to come back, it's going to be that much more urgent. It's going to be that much further down the path of towards being able to happen. And we would certainly hope you would fund it. So we're going to go for it and hope for it. And if we're not successful, we're going to keep on trying, Sharon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Elizabeth? Seeing none, we have a motion and some seconded that the public hearing for this at 6:45 on September 8th. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Barbara and Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
We are on now to Recreation Superintendent Peters. We are looking for a Recreation and Parks update. Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I first want to start by thanking Barbara, who helped lead the charge in the grant writing for the gym. So her and I were last minute, up late, finalizing that, and super proud that we got that. Okay, so I will send some of this paperwork, some of the documentation through email this week. I was finalizing some of the care that we're going to be providing and some of the programs today. So I will be sending that out. But just want to talk briefly about the extended care for summer camp. As most of you know, we were doing a 9-week program. And then with school being delayed an additional 2 weeks, we went ahead and extended our 2 weeks, and we are at almost at capacity again as far as the amount of kids that we can take in. So technically this would have been our last week for summer camp, but we are going an additional 2 weeks. And then we were approached by the hospital again and the school district, Rutland School District, because of the way some of the school districts are going back or not going back to school. Some of the school districts are going remote learning only. However, Rutland Public Schools are going back full force with options to go remote. So what is happening is teachers that teach in the Rutland Public School District are expected to be at school teaching, while now their kids may be in other districts. So we have, in addition with that, the hospital also reached out, similar to what they did in March, asking for same type of thing. So for the last 2 weeks, working on an 8-week program for now. Castleton University, their education department, is going to be assisting us. We're going to hold the program at the Corcel building. It will be a mentoring situation where Castleton students who are in the teaching field will get credits for being, for for mentoring kids that are going remote. So it'll be a little bit different than the essential care that we provided in the beginning, because the remote learning was different. So we're going to provide an 8-week program. It will cost parents money because we will have to pay some of the staff that we have. We also will be working on, putting these 3rd, 4th year students that are at Castleton into the program. We'll be following the same, all of our protocols and moving forward with that. So that did go out today to the school district, specifically Rob Liss and Olson, and we'll go out to the hospital this week. And it is only by phone that somebody can register, because we have to go through the proper protocol to make sure that they either work for the school district or work for the hospital. And like I said, that flyer is a 2-page document with a lot of information on it. I will send that out just so everyone has a copy of that. Moving on to the Halloween parade. So a couple weeks ago, Gordon had called, kind of caught me off guard because we were also working on camps at that point. And with the governor's guidelines, would we be able to run the same parade, which is no. However, we as a rec department have, how can we make this work? What can we do? I received a phone call from the fairgrounds, and I had a great conversation with them today. They have a great idea. I think it can work. And so the next step right now is sending out a survey to our past participants. Without going into too much detail, because we're just getting into the weeds now, we will of course include both chiefs and DPW and the mayor and the rec committee. But the idea, in short, is the floats are inside the fairgrounds and families drive through in accordance to the CDC guidelines. So that's the idea right now. There's a lot of things that we have to look at. Parades like this are being done now. So that will give us a good starting point. That's one option that we're looking at. But we have to do a survey of our current floats. What's nice is at the fairgrounds, this is their real estate. They know what they can do and what they can't do, and how many, if this could work. So this is one option that we're looking at. So the last part is just our miscellaneous, some programs in accordance to the fall sport programs for 2020-2021 school year that was given out last week. We will be moving forward following the guidelines for football and soccer. So again, just now working on that since the documentation came out last week. But we'll be following the same guidelines that the high schools will be doing for their fall sports as well. It will look more like an in-house program, and we will have our safety plans. Last thing I want to just mention is Nicole Densmore. Her last day as a program director was August 14th. She's moving on to be a teacher at Poultney, something that she's been wanting to do for the last 2 years, go back to teaching. So with that being said, we are going to absorb her work and not look at any changes until January 2021. I think that's it. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thank you, Kim. Alderman Garuso.
There, I had to click my mic. Ms. Peters, I first of all commend you because you called me a long time ago and said to stop by, and then with the COVID-19 and all going on and me being sick a lot lately, I haven't had a chance to, and I think you're doing a great job, and I don't mean to beat you up, but of all things, I have been inundated with calls, emails, and people stopping me about the parade. A lot of people's feelings are, we've taken so much from us, baseball and sports and whatever. Their feelings, which I agree a lot with, are This is an event that's outside. The state calls them requirements. They don't call them a law. They don't call them anything. And believe me, I've been there a lot. I had a little scrape with someone over the weekend about the mask situation and their requirements. They're not a law about the masks and all that. And it actually specifically says outdoors you don't need them. And for 25 years easily, I worked with some of the greatest people in the world, the veterans, putting on the Loyalty Day parade. And my thought has been because I've worked on that parade so many times, is that parade would go to West Street. Sometimes we'd take it to William Street. We could take that parade all the way to Field Avenue if we had to stretch it out to give the crowds more room to socially distance. Those who are in it are going to be wearing Halloween costumes and could wear masks if that would be. But I just think there's ways around this, and I think the fair, and as much as I love those guys, I think that's too confined, and the grandstand is a little close and whatever. I just think there's ways around still putting this thing together and still having it in downtown and still letting Rutland have its big, chance at it. And one person had mentioned 60-something years we've had this, and we can't let this stop us. And if I can help in any way, I'd like to find the way around it and the way to do it, because it is Rutland's probably biggest event. And if it's social distancing, I think Rutland's big enough to do it. Just keep the people apart. And like I said, spreading the parade out. I know we've done it. We've done it before. I've seen us take the parade up to the middle school to get the crowd, give the crowd room. But I'm not yelling at you. I'm not beating you up. I'm just saying we can do this, and Rutland's been able to do it. And like I said, the kids in their costume can wear their masks if they have to. But I do know it does say in the list of requirements that you don't need masks outdoors. But if you feel better, the folks feel better wearing them, so be it. Let's do it. But let me know if I can help. I'd like to see us get behind it and see if we can get around this. And no matter how big it is or how small it is, we got to scale it down and limit it. Then let's do that. But I'd love to see it. That's Rutland's baby, and that's just my opinion and a lot of other people too. So thank you for giving me my time. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's not the end of the world. But Rutland loves its Halloween parade, and I thank you for your time, and I do commend you. You're doing a great job, and you got a tough job ahead of you there. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Garuso. Alderman Attore.
Thank you. Kim, I think you are owed a huge debt of gratitude for all of the work that you and the rec department has done in being creative and innovative and responding to the community needs. I think the additional camps, this rec department figured out how to do programs and activities when a number of other rec departments shut down completely. So I think that this rec department, and you in particular, Kim, should be commended and thanked for everything. It sounds like you're going to work on this Halloween parade in some form. That's great, but I think this community and our health is really dependent on you doing these things well. And so far, it's been amazing job, and we're still getting additional revenue in. I think this is the best we could have asked for. So my appreciation, and I hope the community is as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Attore. Any further questions for Superintendent Peters? Alderman Gillum.
Superintendent, if you need help, I can help because I've run parades before. So if you need some help, I am there to help you out. So I'm volunteering.
Thank you, Alderman Gillum. Alderman DePoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we do have the issue of the Halloween parade in front of the Recreation Committee. Kim and I have been in touch over the last few days. She was on vacation last week, so we didn't hold a meeting on that last week, but we will be holding a meeting very soon. I just have to call Clerk Heck and get that scheduled, but we will be talking more about the Halloween parade. I sent this to committee at our last meeting because I felt the way Alderman Garuso does about the parade. It's something that's outdoors. It's something that certainly should and could be held if it's done in a responsible manner with Rutland City having, last I heard, one active case, and that may not even be, that was just a supposed case of COVID-19. As time goes forward, obviously this is a fluid issue, but we're talking October 31st or around there for the Halloween parade, 2.5 months. I think that with the proper plan in place, we can hold this parade downtown, and I think that extending it a little further, as Alderman Grusso mentioned, going down to the middle school or whatever, however we have to do it, I think that this can be accomplished in a responsible way, and that's why I sent it to committee to try to develop a plan so that we can do so and have that event, the traditional event, the way that we've had it for many years. And as I said, it's an outdoor event. I don't see any reason why it can't be held. We need to start, doing things that we have been doing in the past, and just, we have to do them a little bit more responsibly. But let's get this done. Let's do it, and let's develop a plan to keep people safe while they're at the parade enjoying the Halloween parade. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Superintendent Peters, I think I saw your hand up.
So I appreciate the comments, of course, and I'm sure that Mr. Grusso and DePoy both know that this is not something that just comes up. This has been on my mind for the last 3 months, and maybe even since March. Of course, the meeting will be good to have where we can get our minds together, but I encourage you, before you come to the meeting, to please read the guidelines for events, and this would be an event. I agree that if we had the manpower, there could be some ways to do this. I'm not sure if we have that right now. My own staff is extremely spent. We're down 2 full-time people, and another maintenance we're down as well, because we didn't hire a seasonal this year. There would need to be a lot of communication, a lot of volunteers, and honestly, the thing that we've been hearing, where you might be hearing the part of let's have it, we're hearing from our past participants, they do not feel comfortable getting together with their group because they're not all the same group, and so it would be bringing that in. Now, with the survey that goes out, there's going to be some of those questions, but this is an option, and I think it's an option that could work. But again, I just wanted to say that I don't want to go into this anymore, besides because we're having a meeting on it when it's announced by the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Peters. Alderman Garuso.
Yeah, just one quick thing. I actually was thinking asking some of the guys from the VFW. Bill joined there a few years after I got into it, and maybe they'd be glad to help. You never know who would help. If she's going to need some help, I'm in. Let's do it. And Alderman DePoy, he sounds like he's willing. Well, we don't want to hurt anything here. We want to help it. We want to do it safe, but heck, let's put on a show for Rutland. And if we're going to put our money where our mouths are, let's do this. And I don't want to throw everybody to the wolves. I want to get in there and get into this up to my elbows too. So I'm here to help, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Alderman Garuso. Are there any further questions for Superintendent Peters? If not, thank you, Kim. You are doing some incredible work, and we are forever grateful for what you've done. Moving on, next on the agenda, we have Attorney Bloomer's executive session, which we will move to the end of the meeting. So that puts up next Treasurer Markowski. Page 4 of your packet, request for approval and signature on the loan documents for the Northwest Neighborhood, Phase 1 Super Project.
Okay, the first loan document is for the Northwest Neighborhood Phase 1A Sewer Project. These projects were approved by the voters not this past March, but a year ago in March. And the projects are moving forward, so we have the loan documents. This will signing, we haven't spent all of the funds, but signing these documents will allow us to start requesting reimbursement on these. So I was looking for approval of the documents and for the board to authorize a representative to sign on their behalf.
Move to suspend the motion, to suspend the rules.
We have a motion to suspend, and I saw Alderwoman Davis second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries.
Are we suspending for both documents?
Yes.
One at a time. Do you have a motion you'd like to make regarding the first loan document, Alderman Grusso?
Motion to authorize, who we gonna have to authorize to sign this? Would we authorize the city treasurer? Would that be right?
I would ask that the board chair, because I have to also sign the document, and I was thinking that might be more
Authorize
appropriate.
the president of the board to sign on behalf of the city?
Second.
We have a motion and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? I'm hearing and seeing. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Attari, did you have a question? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if we needed to put the amount that we were approving in there, if Attorney Bloomer needed that for bond counsel, or if it's just authorizing the sign.
Attorney Bloomer.
Yeah, if Mary could answer, that would be great. I'm not as familiar with these documents.
Yeah, if the minutes could reflect that the approval is for a loan amount of $2,353,358.
Thank you. We have the second loan document.
Is to authorize the president of the board to sign for $1,300,000 for a loan agreement for a sewer force main project on behalf of the full board.
Real quick, I think we need to suspend prior to doing that.
Okay, I thought the suspension was for both documents. Okay, motion to suspend.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to authorize the president of the board to sign a loan agreement for $1,300,000 for a sewer force main project on behalf of the full board.
Second.
It should be 11430. So I believe that the loan amount changed to $1,430,000. Is that correct, Mary? Am I reading?
Yeah, that's correct with the.
All right, I see it. $1,430,000.
All right, so we've changed that. And the seconder agrees with that. Okay, very good. So we have a motion and seconded. Is there any debate or discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank
Those
you, everyone.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mary. All right, we are on to reports of standing committees. We have none. Reports of select committees. Human Resources Committee report. Alderwoman Ryan. And this was emailed around 5:30 p.m.
Thanks, Matt. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. The HR committee met virtually on August 5th, 2020 to discuss next steps and recommendations from the implicit bias training. Committee members present were myself, Chair, Alderman Chrissy Torrey, the Vice Chair, Michael Talbot, Rebecca Mattis, and Bill Gillum. Aldermen present were Acting President Sharon Davis and Melinda Humphrey. Others present were Acting Mayor Matt Whitcomb, Tara Kelly, Marcia Cassell, Madison Aiken, Kaylee Flanagan, and Joshua Ferguson. The meeting started at 5:30 p.m. I opened up the meeting by naming the two major recommendations for the implicit bias workshop trainers, Kesha Ram and Sue McCormick. The first was to work towards reducing inequities in several key areas, and the second was to continue to build shared understanding about ways racism, bias, and inequities impacts Rutland City. Tara Kelly spoke up and talked about communicating with the public and the overall environment at City Hall. Tara specifically mentioned how important it was for folks to be friendly and welcoming when interacting with guests who attend aldermanic meetings or go to City Hall. Further, Tara said that the city website needed improvement. Alderman Humphrey agreed with Tara's viewpoints and suggestions and also stated that she would like to see aldermen and city employees more consciously aware of how they are interacting with folks who speak outside of the rail and enter City Hall. She further stated that we need to make sure we acknowledge and show appreciation to folks who are engaging with us at meetings. Alderman Humphrey said that some of our most robust conversations stem from public participation and that we need to encourage more of it. Alderman Humphrey asked where folks stood on incorporating some sort of annual implicit or anti-bias training for city employees and making it part of our policies and procedures. She said that in the past, the board has set aside funds for these types of training. Acting President Davis stated that there has never been any money in the budget for bias trainings. She stated that Mayor Loris may have done it as a one-time training for city department heads and the Board of Aldermen, but that there was never a line item in the budget for it specifically or in the budget every year. Alderman Humphrey noted that in 2015 or 2016, $16,000 was taken out of the mayoral budget for this type of training, and that she did not know if it was meant for one-time, annual, or biannual. Further, she said that this important work should not be done for free and that it's a small amount of money when looking at the entire budget. I echoed Alderman Humphrey in that none of this work should be done for free, and that if it is worth it, which it is, we should be able to find a way to pay for it. Acting Mayor Whitcomb expressed that he has done many types of implicit bias trainings, both professionally and academically, and has very much enjoyed and found the value in them. He also stated that by taking these trainings, we mitigate any risk of people inadvertently doing something that could get the city sued. Acting Mayor Whitcomb also stated that these types of trainings allow us to make better hires, think differently about how we promote people, and also helps us to acknowledge certain things that we might consider unconsciously about how we pick people for specific jobs. He said this is a marginal cost for the return on investment that we will get from it. Tara agreed with Acting Mayor Whitcomb that the onboarding process is a critical element that is missing at the city. Tara stated that there needs to be ongoing opportunities for staff to think about what our culture at City Hall is. What are we representing to people who come into City Hall, and how do we do customer service? Tara said that implicit bias training coupled with customer service training would be great for new folks coming into City Hall, as well as a refresher for long-term employees. Alderman Talbot said that although he did not participate in the implicit bias training because he was not yet on the board, he has participated in such trainings before, and that it's crucial for anyone working for the city to undergo these trainings because of the many reasons previously stated. Alderman Talbot stated that the people who have been historically marginalized in our society and community are going to be the hardest hit during this time, and that is why it's so important to invest in these trainings right now. Alderman Torrey said that among the different trainings that City Hall folks should participate in, implicit bias training is one of them, and that we need to spell it out and it needs to be part of the onboarding process. Alderman Talbot said someone spoke to him regarding having to state their address when speaking outside the rail and that it is somewhat off-putting. He asked if a person can just say what city or town they live in and if one needs to say their address. Alderman Talbot made a motion to request the HR director to include a line for implicit bias training as a budget item and to include said language drafted by the city attorney in the HR manual. Motion passed 4-0 and I so move. The meeting adjourned at 6:08 p.m.
Thank you, Alderwoman Humphrey. Alderwoman Mattis.
Brian.
Sorry, Lisa.
Have we had a second, Mr. Chairman?
There's not been a second.
I'll second
All
that.
right,
This is Alderman Humphrey.
All right, Alderwoman Ryan moved and Alderman Humphrey seconded. And now Alderwoman Pettis.
Thank you, Mr. President. So first of all, I want to say that I'm feeling chagrined that I wasn't able to participate fully in the meeting. I just had a last minute situation at work where I wasn't able to leave work early as I had planned. And I know how important it is to have these conversations during committee. I myself have been frustrated when I've, really tried to get people to join committee meetings and have a rich discussion, and it doesn't happen. So I apologize to the committee chair for that.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You did a great job,
Thank you.
notifying people and everything. So I'm sorry about that. So I do want to say what I would have said then. I agree with a lot of what was said, and I think that, in terms of thinking about how to increase public participation in city government and how to increase a kind of a sense of customer service, I think that is something that could be really beneficial. I think that the City Hall website could also be improved. So there are a lot of points that I agree with there, and I'd like to see ongoing conversations about that. I certainly agree. I mean, obviously now we're meeting remotely. It's awkward anyway, but once we get back to City Hall, it would be nice to have a sort of how do we greet people? What's really the best way to make people feel welcome? So again, that's really important. I want to say that in terms of things like, any kind of bias, anything that we're wanting to intervene on, it's important to be really specific and data driven. So we need to think about, what are past events in the city that we want to see less of or more of? What are current situations that we'd like to change? What interventions are likely to have an effect? And what makes us believe that those interventions are likely to have what makes us believe that they are likely to have an effect? And then how is success measured? So this all needs to be data driven. Otherwise, it's just spinning wheels, I think, in some cases. So I would definitely like to see prejudice get reduced. We want effective strategies for that. However, I don't believe that anti-bias training is an effective strategy. I've done a lot of research over the years, and I've seen many reports, many meta-analyses of scientific studies that have shown that implicit bias training is just not an effective strategy. The Federal Judicial Center, which is the research and education agency of the U.S. federal court, says programs seeking to reduce implicit bias have limited effects. I really don't want to spend time and money on something that has limited effects. Indeed, I've seen studies that show that sometimes implicit bias training can have the opposite of the intended results, especially when it's mandated. I know our previous training was not mandated, which is good. But even the way that it was, I'm just not clear on how much the training that we had is going to reduce prejudice. So I am against it. I'm against the motion for those reasons. I am for continuing the discussions that came out of our training. as to customer service and welcoming the public and getting participation in city government and city in general. But I'm convinced, based on all the data that I've seen, that anti-bias training is not an effective strategy, and for that reason, I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Mattis. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you. I was able to attend the meeting that Alderman Ryan had. It was a good meeting, a good discussion. I appreciate that I was there. I just want to be clear that I understand the motion. So, and if the city attorney could weigh in. So I guess what I'm wondering is this a request, I'll use Rebecca's words, a mandate as a condition of employment? So if we're putting it in the HR budget, is Jody aware and agreeable? Is she agreeable to hold the schedule and hold those trainings? And again, are they in condition of employment? Is it mandated as for existing employees and or new hires? And if so, how will the union deal with this? Because they would need to sign off. So I guess I just want to understand, is that the motion that we're requesting it to be a condition of employment?
So Attorney Bloomer, I don't know if you were going to answer. I'm reading the motion as this, that there is a motion requesting the HR director draft how implicit training, actually, I guess how the city attorney would draft implicit bias training is for HR policy manual, and
right,
that would look at costs would be.
So I didn't hear Alderman Ryan respond. I just want to make sure I understand the motion. I don't want to vote yay or nay.
Well,
I understand
you're
the
the
motion.
one who set the motion, Sharon, and then in the meeting, and then Michael officially said it. So I was including the language that was spoken by you, and also the follow-up, which was the amendment by Alderwoman Humphrey. I don't see anywhere where it says a condition of employment, but I do see having the HR director and Matt Bloomer, the city attorney, to work towards finding something that makes sense, that can go into the budget so that we can look, or go into the policy manual so that we can look at what that might be for future employment, as far as being, you know, an HR requirement or not. That was my understanding of the motion that was put out by the committee.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion or debate?
I guess my one question of Attorney Bloomer, if I may, is even though this is in a discussion phase, would the unions need to sign off on this if it went to condition of employment? And can we make it a condition of employment?
Depending on what you mean, I guess by condition of employment, that's sort of a term of art in the union setting. If it's just that we're making it a part of our orientation process, then I think that's perfectly fine. I think we have other policies, you know, workplace violence, sexual harassment, some of those sort of things. And if this is a part of that, obviously, if we're having people do the training outside of work, then that's a different story. But if whatever training will be done during work hours, then I think that would be possible, likely without you know, union sign off. But it would be helpful to kind of get more clarification as to what the board is looking for with the vote, I guess. Well,
I have a comment.
Sure. Yep.
Sorry, Matt Bloomer, go ahead. Finish your, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was just going to say it's sort of a two-part motion, and on the first part of the motion is sort of tricky because of the way that our budget process is set up. So you may be able to require that the HR director put it in her request to the mayor, but then obviously the mayor chooses what goes into the budget that is presented to you all. So there might be ways, I guess, to mandate it. And I don't think just a request to the HR director, or just even if it's a direction to the HR director, that may not, end up with there being a line item by the time it makes it to you. Maybe whatever you end up doing with the handbook and otherwise could, I guess, make it a policy of the city that needs to be funded in some manner. But again, it would be helpful to kind of understand exactly what you envision, what you're asking for, I guess.
Alderwoman Humphrey, you had a comment?
Thanks. Yeah, I had a comment in general, and then I had something that I'm hoping will clarify the motion. So, while I appreciate Alderman Mattis's comment, I know that we've had this discussion personally before, and I respectfully disagree. As Attorney Bloomer mentioned, we have policies regarding sexual harassment, workplace violence. To my knowledge, those are not data-driven decisions. Maybe they should be. We don't, year after year, determine that those policies reduce the number of sexual harassment claims or workplace violence claims. If we do, that's news to me, and I'd like to read up on it. But what I'm trying to get at is we don't need anything to validate the need for those. They're recognized as important and necessary, and I think that especially now, 2020, anti-bias training is expected and necessary, and just as important as those other things. In regards to the motion, my understanding coming out of that meeting was that the motion was to direct the HR department head and the city attorney to draft language to include such training, incorporate it into, to provide us with draft language to incorporate it into the policy manual. And then, so that's the motion that my understanding was tonight, and to also direct the HR department head to include it in the budget going forward. And then my understanding would be at some point, we would have draft language for that policy come before the board, and we could provide additional input and vote on it again. I also envision that potentially this draft language could come back into HR committee, and we could discuss it more robustly then, and then bring it to the full board. But that was my understanding what we'd be voting on tonight, simply to direct the HR director and the city attorney to draft some language for policy.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Clifford.
So, Alderman Davis actually asked a lot of the questions that I was going to ask, but I have one question to ask: is it the intention of the committee to make this mandatory?
Well, this is Lisa. I can certainly speak for myself in saying I would expect it to be mandatory in some way for either new employees. I don't know about if it's a refresher. I think we need to, go back and look at that if it's as a refresher course or training. But absolutely for new employees, I would recommend that it be mandated. And again, the committee members are here. They voted on the motion, so I'd like to hear from them.
Alderman Clifford, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Alderwoman Ryan. So that being said, I guess I'm going to ask this of Attorney Bloomer. Are policies a negotiable item with unions?
Depending on what they contain, they may be. And again, I guess I'm envisioning this a little bit different than the workplace violence and sexual harassment policies, because those are kind of standalone policies where it talks about what the expectations of the city are with respect to those topics. But to my knowledge, there isn't really any ongoing training, and we may not even get training, at the outset either. So those are more like laying out, here's our policy of like what you do, who you contact, what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable. But again, just, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like something different. I'm not sure we could put down on paper, what is required of you with respect to bias. This, I think what we're talking about is some form of training, actual proactive training. And again, my follow-up is going to be, I think Jody and I probably just need more guidance as to, who you think it should, or either give us guidance that you want us to come up with what we think would be appropriate as far as who gets trained and by whom and how often, or if there is a feeling from the board as to, those type of the answers to those questions, then that would be helpful. Because if we bring you back a draft language that's just based on what she and I come up with, it may not reflect what, this people intended by this upcoming vote. So, I guess to answer your question, Paul, it depends on what we're doing, I think. And because I don't know yet what that is, I can't really answer that question very well as far as how the union piece comes in.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing and I'm done. So that being said, if there's still questions by the city attorney, I would think the best thing to do was to keep this in committee until those questions can be answered by the city attorney before we act on it. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
President Wickham, I have a comment.
Alderman Humphrey, is that you?
Yeah, thank you. So thanks, Paul. That was going to be my suggestion as well. Perhaps at this point it is, maybe we do take it back to, and I'm not on this committee, but maybe we do take it back to committee to have a more in-depth discussion in regards to what that language looks like. And we can proactively reach out to union reps if necessary, as well as coordinating the scheduling of the meeting with the department head and Attorney Bloomer.
Thank you, Alderman Humphrey. Alderman Talbot.
Earlier, I was just going to second what Alderwoman Humphrey said. 1 second. About the intention here was to get draft language from the attorney and move forward on that. I didn't think we were going to be voting on it until we had seen that language, and we didn't see any tonight. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Ryan.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm having internet issues.
Yep, I hear you now.
I first of all wanted to follow up to Alderman Clifford and say that was something that I would agree with, to keep it in committee. I think that's a smart choice, and that the intent of the motion was to have the city attorney and HR director draft language. It wasn't to vote on anything. We all came up with this motion. We all agreed on it. That's it.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ryan. Alderman Mattis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree that this is a conversation that needs to continue in committee. I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue discussing it. I did just want to clarify my position to Alderwoman Humphrey's point. I think there is a great deal of difference between anti-bias training and stuff like sexual harassment training. The difference is that with stuff like workplace violence and sexual harassment, you're giving new hires information that they need about their behavior. So you're telling them what types of behavior are appropriate in the work environment. Anti-bias training is different. Implicit bias is not talking about behavior. It's talking about something that's implicit. And the science there is really mushy. I wouldn't want to base a training on implicit bias. I would certainly support training that instructed people on what kind of behavior is appropriate in City Hall and city workplaces. So that's all. Thanks for the opportunity to clarify.
Thank you, Alderman Mattis. Alderwoman Ryan.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to Alderwoman Mattis in that anti-bias training is all about the manifestation of beliefs into action. It is about the behavior. It's about behaviors that we don't typically know about because they are implicit and unconscious. That is the whole reason for implicit bias training. Focus on what we don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ryan. Alderman DePoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just want to chime in here. It's going to be short and sweet. I'm opposed to this. I'm opposed to continuing. What's that?
You're very unclear right now. I'm sorry.
Pretty clear.
Okay, you got me now.
We'll listen closely. It's a little bit muffled, but go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. I just want to let everyone know that I am totally and completely opposed to continuing with the implicit bias training and using city resources to continue this. I think it's a waste of time. I don't want to do it anymore. I think we should drop it immediately and move on with other things and stop using and wasting city resources on implicit bias training. I think it's a completely different issue, as Rebecca Mattis brought up, from actions as opposed to thought process. Anytime we try to control thought process, it's wrong. Yes, we can control the way we should control the way that our employees act toward others, but implicit bias training should be dropped from here on out. I don't want anything more to do with it whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderwoman Ryan.
I heard some of that, whatever it was by Alderman DePoy. It was a little muffled, but I think, Alderman DePoy, to you, it's noteworthy the fact that you have no real opposition other than your feelings, and this is why we need to continue this focus on this issue. This is about how thought drives behavior, and that's critical to decision making, and that's what we are here to do, is make decisions. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ryan. Alderman Attari.
Thank you. I think clearly we need to send this back to committee and have some more conversation. What would be the correct way to do that? Would it be to withdraw the motion on the floor, or to just re-refer, take precedence?
Attorney Bloomer, could you weigh in on that real quick? What is the appropriate action here if we were to keep it in committee as opposed to?
Well, I guess I'm of the thinking that you should vote on the motion coming out of committee, because I don't know that anyone can dispose of that. That's sort of the committee's motion. So I would vote on that, and then if it passes, then you know, you don't need anything else. If it fails, then someone could make a motion to keep keep the issue in committee or re-refer. I don't think it matters necessarily. It gets the point across that you'd like to have another discussion about it in committee.
Okay, thank you for that, Attorney Bloomer. Alderman Clifford?
Point of order.
Alderman Gillum?
Yes. Can I ask a procedural question here to the attorney?
Yes.
If we table this, is that considered the issue still in committee? If we move the table, because that would oversee this motion that's on the floor now, am I correct?
I agree. I think that's all we need to do is table this, guys.
Okay, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether if you table a motion, whether it remains in committee and you can come back, you can go back and hold a meeting. It would be cleaner, I think, to vote, and then if people aren't ready to do that right now, then do your either re-referral or ask it to stay in committee, and then from that meeting you can, if the motion would be the same, great, or if it would change at all, then that would be the new motion coming out of the HR committee rather than taking this one up in its current form, after another meeting. It probably doesn't matter. I would just say there's no one that can really decide that you're not going to vote on the motion coming out of committee, other than I suppose the people that voted for it. But I just think it would be cleaner to vote on it and then decide where to go after that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer. Alderman Clifford?
I call the question, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right. So question has been called, seconded. So we are voting on right now the motion as presented out of committee.
No, we are voting on the motion to call the question.
Call the question. All right. So there's been a motion to call the question. It's been seconded. All those in favor of calling the question, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. So we're calling the question. We're going to vote on the motion as presented coming out of committee. I'm going to assume a roll call vote here to save some time. So I'll hand it over to clerk.
Alderman Garuso.
No.
Alderwoman Humphrey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan.
Yes.
Alderman Torrey.
Yes.
Alderman Talbot.
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis.
No.
Alderman Gillum.
No.
Alderman Clifford.
No.
Alderman DePoy.
No.
Alderwoman Day.
No.
Motion fails.
All right. Motion fails 4-6. Now I will ask, was there an interest in referring the issue of bias back to
So
our
moved.
committee?
You can make a motion to refer it back to the HR committee.
All right. So there's been a motion, been seconded. Is there any debate or discussion on referring the issue of implicit bias training back to human resources? Alderman Gillum.
May I ask if we add the HR director to that meeting, because she was not at the last meeting? And I think if we had her there, there'd been some more crucial information that the committee could have made some judgment calls to get a motion correct. So I suggest that we add the HR director to that meeting.
Certainly, Alderman Gillum, and I think it was an accidental oversight on the first meeting that she missed. Alderwoman Ryan.
We're going to suggest the HR director is there, which I know was an error on part of the city clerk. I would suggest that the folks who voted no also attend.
Thank you, Alderwoman Ryan. Alderman Clifford.
Will the city attorney also be invited? Put it, let me ask you this, I'll ask the chair of the committee, would you feel that the city attorney should attend?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion or debate on the motion to refer back to committee? I am hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of referring to HR committee, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
All right, we have a no vote, so we will have to take a roll call vote. I will turn it over to Clerk Heck.
Alderman Garuso,
Yes.
Alderwoman Humphrey,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Alderman Attore,
Yes.
Alderman Talbot,
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis,
Yes.
Alderman Gillum,
Yes.
Alderman Clifford,
Yes.
Alderman DePoy,
No.
Alderwoman Davis.
Yes.
Did she say yes?
Yes.
9-1, motion passes.
All right, motion passes 9-1, so we refer the issue of implicit bias training to Human Resources Committee. Is there anything additional relative to this issue? Hearing and we are on to reports of representatives. We have none. Petitions, letters, miscellaneous communication. We have a request for Art in the Park, October 10th and 11th. This is pages 6 through 10 of your agenda.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
A motion to suspend and seconded. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I lost my signal. What did we vote on?
Just barely to suspend the rules for the Art in the
Okay.
Park.
All right, thank you.
Need a motion.
We need a motion, but
For the approval for Art in the Park for October 10th and 11th, 2020, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on
Second.
Saturday and 10 to 4 on Sunday. And I will state that guidelines for the previous Art in the Park that was held in August, if the pandemic is still, which I assume it will be, that the guidelines are followed similar to what they were for the Art in the Park event in August.
Second.
all right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. I do believe Sherry was on here. I don't know if she hung with us this whole time, but if so, if you'd like to speak to this.
I'm here.
Could
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me okay?
Mr. President, could I just tell her, Sherry, I just think that next time this is what, the 10th and 11th, I think you should come in on October 9th next time and get your permits. You did a great job this year. It looked really, really good. You managed the crowd, and I think hats off to you. You did a wonderful job with the pandemic and everything and keeping the park good, and I commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sherry? Will we have her on the line? Alderman Attore.
Yeah, I was just wanting to hear from Sharon how it went and if the protocols were followed by people from out of town guests, how it went. I'm just curious how it went from their perspective. Thank you.
Sure. So it went well. All of the planning was worth it. There were a few things that we learned quickly and fixed, like, having more people on the gate to take phone numbers, to designate certain things and certain tasks. And the flow went really well. It was kind of an S shape. I think Alderwoman Mathis came. I was like looking at the names the other day. I don't know how she felt about it, but I kept asking people when it wasn't when they're walking by, like how's everything, because we just wanted to make it a really good experience. I would say the majority, they enjoyed it. They respected the fact that we wanted masks on in there, that there was a one-way flow. And when it wasn't followed by a few, I mean, I did take care of it, I did address it. But for the most part, everybody was happy to do what was needed, and excited to be there.
Alderwoman Mattis?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to answer Sherry's question. Yeah, I had a great time. I thought you did a great job. It was very easy to understand what the expectations were. I had some concerns about the direction of flow because it's sometimes awkward in certain supermarkets and stuff. I didn't find it awkward at all. It was a really wonderful event, and I'm glad you were able to make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments for Sherry? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the Art in the Park event on October 10th and 11th, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for sticking with us, Sherry. Great job
Sure.
here in August. This is really a gem that Rutland has, and you did some really good work up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, we are on to Board of Control Commissioners, of which we have nothing. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business to come before the board? I'm seeing no hands and hearing nothing. So on to miscellaneous motions, resolutions, new business. Alderman DePoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kim has alerted me that she wants to add to the Recreation Committee dealing with the Halloween parade. She'd like to add to that agenda discussions about the ice rink and also the gym strategy for CSJ Gym and the vote in November. I think she has some ideas about how we can utilize the CSJ Gym and the rink, maybe to help out with different events. So can I please add those to the committee, the rec committee, to add to the agenda to go along with the Halloween parade discussion?
Second.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion that's been seconded to add to the Halloween parade agenda that's already in the Recreation Committee, discussion around the rink and the use of the SJ Gym this winter, if I heard that correctly.
Correct.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate on that issue? Alderman Gillum.
Just wanted to ask the question of Alderman DePoy. Has he got a sore throat or is he having trouble with his microphone?
Sounds like a bad Burger King speaker.
I'm very sorry, everyone. I think I have different headphones on tonight. My other headphones are much better, nicer headphones than these, so I'm very sorry.
Sounds like Darth Vader.
And I did make the motion to get back to City Hall and not do this virtually anymore. So this is just one more reason why I think we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. All right, so we have the motion that's been seconded. Is there any further discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any additional miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business? I am hearing and seeing nothing. So we do have one executive session. Attorney Bloomer, I'll turn it over to you for the language.
Thank you. So the first motion would be to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the negotiation of a contract would clearly place the city at substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the board's position on the contract provisions to be negotiated.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Bloomer?
And then a motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the mayor, treasurer, and city attorney to discuss the negotiation of a contract as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1A.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and it's been seconded. All those in favor of entering executive session, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, we will enter into executive session. I emailed a separate link with the login information. As soon as we're all there, we'll start.